The help wanted sign fluttered like a trapped moth against the 9-foot iron fence, its zip ties biting into the weathered metal that divided the university's sleepy campus housing from the jagged sprawl of the city beyond. The words were stenciled in bold, peeling black letters: knee-haged security Y cemetery shift, $2,000 cash. Own a night only. Desperation clawed at me sharper than any hunger I'd known. Rent was 3 weeks overdue, my fridge hummed with empty echoes, and the eviction notice taped to my apartment door had started to curl at the edges like a dying leaf. I crossed the cracked asphalt street without a second thought, the late afternoon sun slanting low and bloody across the pavement. The man in the security booth rose to greet me like a shadow uncoiling, his nameplate read Marcus etched in faded gold on his lapel. He was ancient, his white hair slicked back in severe wings, his sharp black suit tailored so precisely it seemed woven from midnight itself. His smile cracked open like a jagged wound, revealing teeth yellowed by secrets. He didn't glance at my rumpled clothes or ask for a resume, ID, or even my name. Instead, he slid a heavy brass key ring across the scarred wooden counter, keys of all sizes jangling like distant wind chimes, and a thick manila envelope sealed with red wax. "The money is inside," he rasped, his voice scraping like dry leaves over gravel. "So is the list. Read the first page now, before the light fades. Do not, under any circumstances, read the second page until midnight strikes. No one good has ever been buried here. And remember, boy, they know when you're afraid." With that, he stepped out of the booth, his polished shoes clicking faintly on the gravel path that snaked into the cemetery's heart. The door swung shut behind him with a finality that made the air thicken. The sun dipped lower, painting the wrought iron gate in hues of rust and fire. Alone now, I tore open the envelope. Crisp $100 bills spilled into my palm, exactly 20 of them, untouched and smelling faintly of old ink. My pulse quickened. This was real, tangible salvation. Tucked beneath was a single sheet of paper, typed in precise, impersonal font, the edges crisp as if freshly printed from some forgotten ledger. Rule 1, the gate. The cemetery has one gate, this iron moor. It must be locked by 8 p.m. sharp. No one is permitted inside until sunrise, not even the police. The dead do not share their hours lightly. Rule 2, the ghost hunters. Thrill seekers and so-called investigators prowl the fences after dark, drawn by whispers of hauntings. If you spot trespassers, remove them immediately. Drag them if you must. But be warned, law enforcement cannot cross the gate line once the sun sets. If you call them, they must wait on the sidewalk, powerless as spectators to a private hell. Rule 3, the suit. Inside the closet is a suit, black as pitch. You must wear it. They need to think you are me. The dead have long memories for faces. Rule 4, the salt. Retrieve the canisters of salt and the rusted spade from the booth's lower drawer. Locate the 4 graves marked with white roses, faded blooms that never wilt. Pour a complete circle of salt around each one. Leave no gaps, no matter how the earth resists. The circles are bindings, break them, and you invite the unraveling. Rule 5, the bells. Small safety bells crown certain headstones, relics from an era when the living feared being buried alive. If a single bell rings, salt that grave immediately. Pour until the sound chokes. If all the bells ring at once, salt yourself where you stand. Do not move, do not run. Motion feeds them. Rule 6, the gargoyles. The stone statues perched on the fence corners face inward, eternal sentinels with eyes like polished obsidian. If you see one move, even a twitch of wing or claw, close your eyes and count to 100. Do not acknowledge it. To look is to invite its gaze upon your soul. I glanced at my watch, 7:50 p.m. The sky bruised purple at the edges, shadows stretching like fingers across the unkempt lawns. 10 minutes. I snatched the keys and bolted for the gate, the brass biting cold into my palm. The massive iron barrier groaned as I swung it shut, the bolt sliding home with a heavy, resonant thud that echoed through the tombstones like a judge's gavel. It felt final, as if I'd sealed not just the living out, but myself in with whatever stirred below. Back in the booth, the air hung stale, laced with the faint rot of damp earth and something sharper, brass polish, perhaps. I yanked open the closet door. There it hung, the suit, impeccably pressed, a void tailored for a man like Marcus. It fit me unnervingly well, the wool whispering against my skin like a lover's breath. The jacket draped over my shoulders with an intimate weight, the trousers falling straight as if measured that morning. I straightened the tie in the booth's smudged mirror, the glass fogged at the corners from years of uneasy breaths. My reflection stared back, pale and unfamiliar, in the severe cut of the collar. I blinked. It blinked a fraction of a second later, lazy, deliberate. A chill wormed down my spine, but I shoved it aside. Tricks of the light, exhaustion, lies I told myself to keep moving. The salt canisters were heavy, coarse grains shifting inside like sand in an hourglass. The spade's handle was pitted with rust, its blade scarred from countless burials. I stepped into the cemetery proper, the grass unnaturally thick and vibrant green, as if it drank not water but the marrow of the dead beneath. Gravestones loomed like crooked teeth in the gloaming, marble angels with eroded wings, obelisks etched with names long faded to whispers. The 4 graves weren't hard to find. The white roses gleamed phosphorescent in the twilight, petals unfurling in impossible defiance of the season. Kneeling, I drove the spade into the soil to loosen it, then poured the salt in meticulous circles, the grains hissing faintly as they met the earth. My hands shook, scattering a few errant crystals, but I swept them back in with trembling fingers. No gaps. The rule burned in my mind like a brand. By 8:15 p.m., the perimeter was secure, the night a velvet shroud settling over the grounds. I paced the booth, flashlight beams slicing futile arcs through the dark, ears straining for footsteps on the fence. The city beyond hummed distantly, car horns, laughter from campus parties, but here silence reigned, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind through the willows. 10 p.m. arrived like a thief. The first bell rang out, clang, from somewhere deep in the shadows, sharp and accusatory. I spun, heart slamming against my ribs. Then another joined, a discordant twin. Within seconds, 20, no, dozens, erupted in chaotic symphony, brass throats screaming in synchronized agony. The air vibrated with it, a cacophony that clawed at my eardrums, evoking buried screams long suppressed. Rule 5. I dropped to my knees on the booth floor, fumbling the canister open. Salt poured in a frantic ring around my boots, the circle incomplete until the last grain settled. I froze there, knees grinding into the grit, breath shallow as the bells swelled to a deafening crescendo. The world narrowed to that sound, relentless, mocking, until, as abruptly as it began, it cut to utter silence. My ears rang in the void. I flicked on the flashlight, sweeping it toward the northeast corner where the fence met a crumbling stone pillar. The gargoyle's perch was empty, its pedestal scarred as if claws had gouged the marble. Rule 6. I slammed my eyes shut, counting aloud to steady my voice. 1, 2. The grinding started then, heavy stone on stone, mingled with a wet, fleshy scrape like bone yielding to weight. Cold air rushed past, carrying the scent of wet granite and something fouler, like grave soil churned after rain. I reached 98, 99, 100. A final thud reverberated through the ground, the statue settling back into place. When I dared to open my eyes, it glowered down, unmoved, unblinking. But its shadow seemed longer, reaching toward the booth like an outstretched hand. I bolted inside, barricading the door with a chair that felt laughably flimsy. My heart hammered a war drum in my chest, sweat soaking the suit's crisp shirt. The clock ticked mercilessly, 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes to midnight. With shaking hands, I retrieved the envelope's second page, the paper crinkling like brittle bones. The handwriting here was different, scrawled and frantic, ink bleeding at the edges as if written in haste by a man fleeing his own shadow. Rule 7, Henry. In the southwest corner lies a weathered stone marked Henry, beloved father, 1892 to 1923. If he rises, do not return to the booth. The dead do not forgive unfinished business. Light the match provided in your suit pocket and throw it on his grave immediately. The flame will be green, do not flinch from its hunger. Rule 8, the hum. If you hear humming from the crematorium, a low, tuneless drone, do not investigate. Some songs are meant for the departed alone. Rule 9. The cabinet. If you hear scratching from the cabinet beneath the desk in the booth, do not open it. What scratches hungers for light. Rule 10. The ink. Check the red logbook on the shelf. Some rules are written in invisible ink that only appears after midnight, revealed by the moon's pale touch or the spill of your own fear. I had barely absorbed Rule 7 when it began, a whisper slithering from the darkness outside the booth's fogged window. 10. The voice was like tearing paper, ragged and deliberate. I froze, breath catching in my throat. 9. It emanated from the southwest corner, where fog coiled like smoke from an unseen pyre. A figure materialized there, impossibly tall, spindly as a starved sapling, draped in tattered rags that fluttered without wind. Its face was a ruin, hollow cheeks, eyes like pits of churning mud. Henry. The name clawed up from some buried instinct, a warning etched in the air. 8. He lurched forward, not walking but unfolding, limbs flailing like a broken marionette jerked by invisible strings. Panic surged. I patted the suit pocket frantically, fingers closing on a slim matchbox, its wood worn smooth by desperate hands before mine. 7. 6. I burst from the booth, gravel crunching underfoot as I sprinted toward the southwest corner, the countdown a lash across my back. 5. 4. A root, or was it a grasping hand, snagged my ankle, sending me sprawling over a low headstone. Stone bit into my palms, drawing hot blood that slicked my grip on the matchbox. Henry closed the distance with unnatural speed, his gait a series of convulsive jerks, rags whispering promises of violence. 3. I scrambled up, lungs burning, and reached the weathered stone. Henry, beloved father. The earth around it was disturbed, fresh as if recently tilled. 2. My fingers, slippery with sweat and blood, fumbled the match free. I struck it against the box's side, once, twice, sparks flying futilely. 1. Henry lunged, his claws, elongated, dirt-crusted nails, raking inches from my face, close enough to feel the grave chill radiating from them. The match caught on the third strike, flaring with an unnatural green flame that cast his features in sickly emerald. I hurled it onto the grave's mound. The dirt ignited instantly, a geyser of green fire erupting skyward, devouring the soil with ravenous hunger. Henry shrieked, a burst of pure static, like a radio tuned to the frequency of the damned, and dissolved into a vortex of ash and acrid smoke, his form unraveling thread by thread until nothing remained but scorched earth and the echo of his countdown. I collapsed onto the grass, gasping, chest heaving, as if I'd run a marathon through hell. The night pressed in, vast and unyielding, but the immediate terror ebbed, leaving me hollowed out. Dehydration clawed at my throat, the earlier sprint and salt sweat sapping every drop. Dawn was hours away. I needed water. But the rules. I staggered back to the booth, barricading myself once more, and pulled the red logbook from the shelf. Its leather cover was cracked, pages yellowed like old teeth. Under the flashlight's beam, new writing materialized in wet, red ink, seeping upward from the paper as if bled from the words themselves, appearing only now in the witching hour's afterglow. Rule 11. Martin. If you see the groundskeeper Martin tending the weeds, let him be. He has not drawn breath since 1974. Inference the roots. Rule 12. The rain. Rain does not excuse missed perimeter checks. It only awakens what slumbers in the mud. Rule 13. The leaks. Count the leaks in the shed roof during your rounds. If the number changes without storm, report it to the log. The roof weeps for the unburied. Rule 14. Plot 247. This plot prefers weekly visits. Neglect invites roots into your dreams. A folded map slipped from the logbook's pages, detailing the grounds in faded blueprint. Plot 247, a modest slab in the elder section, engraved with my grandfather's name, Thomas E. Hargrove, 1942 to 2019. The realization hit like grave dirt in my lungs. Every Sunday for 40 years, he'd driven here without fail, returning with soil under his nails and a distant look in his eyes. I thought it grief, a ritual for his late wife. But no, he wasn't visiting, he was working. He was the previous keeper, bound to this place like the gargoyles to their perches. The suit I wore, it had been his once. Marcus's before that, a chain, link by link. My throat burned fiercer now, a dry rasp demanding relief. I turned the page, and more rules bled into view. Rule 15. The North Fountain. The South Fountain is safe, its waters clear as forgotten tears. The North Fountain is not for drinking after midnight. What it holds is borrowed from the veins below. Rule 16. The Reflection. The North Fountain reflects the truth. Do not look for too long. Some truths have teeth. Rule 17. Gravity. What reflects up must flow down. The sky hungers as the earth does. The South Fountain, when I stumbled to it, was bone dry, its basin a cracked porcelain smile, choked with dead leaves. Thirst overrode caution, I veered to the north, the marble basin brimming with water that gleamed unnaturally silver under the moon. I cupped my hands and drank deeply, the liquid cold as winter's bite, tasting of copper pennies and faint ozone. It soothed the fire in my throat, but as I straightened, I glanced down. My reflection stared back, not weary and dirt-streaked, but smiling. A toothless, hollow grin stretched across its face, eyes gleaming with malicious recognition. I jerked away, water dripping from my chin, but the image lingered in my mind's eye. In the distance, near the willow grove, I spotted him, Martin, bent over a grave, methodically weeding with a trowel that glinted like a scalpel. His uniform, faded denim overalls, stained with decades of earth, was soaked through, rivulets of water tracing paths down his arms. But the droplets defied sense. They rose, defying gravity, spiraling upward into the night sky like inverted tears, vanishing into the stars. Rule 18. The Others. Do not speak to the other workers. Their tongues twist words into nooses. Martin paused, his head tilting at an impossible angle. Slowly, he turned, milky eyes locking onto mine across the lawns. He raised a gnarled hand and pointed, deliberate, accusatory, toward the crematorium, its squat brick silhouette hulking at the ground's edge like a forgotten beast. Then it came, a low humming, threading through the silence like smoke under a door. Familiar, achingly so. It was my grandfather's voice, off-key, the same tuneless melody he'd hum while polishing his old pocket watch, a habit from his Navy days, but warped now, layered with echoes that suggested a chorus of the damned. Rule 19. The Vaults. Voices lie, memory lies deeper, trust the stone it remembers all. Rule 20. The Furnaces. The furnaces are doors. What enters as ash may return as hunger. I should have turned away. Rule 8 screamed in my skull, a siren I ignored. The hum pulled me like a current, feet carrying me through the dew-slick grass toward the crematorium's rusted door. It creaked open at my touch, unlatched, exhaling a breath of warm ash and ozone. Inside, the humming ceased abruptly, leaving a void that pressed on my temples. 3 furnaces lined the walls, their iron mouths yawning open, glowing with an eerie blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Names were engraved above each in ornate script: Martin, eternal groundsman; Marcus, first keeper; Thomas E. Hargrove, devoted servant. And at the end, the newest, my name, freshly etched, the letters still sharp and unworn. Hargrove, next in line. Rule 21. Family. Family serves together. Blood waters the grounds. Rule 22. The Shift. The shift never ends. It only rotates. Dawn brings no release, only succession. Rule 23. The Management. We do not own the cemetery, we feed it. Our fears, our reflections, our replacements. The blue glow flickered, casting my shadow long and distorted across the tiled floor, where faint scorch marks traced patterns like grasping fingers. I backed away, the door slamming shut behind me with a clang that rattled my bones. Back in the booth, I flipped to the logbook's final page. The handwriting there was mine, looping scrawl I recognized from grocery lists and half-hearted journal entries, but I hadn't written it. The ink still glistened, as if penned moments ago by a hand not my own. Rule 24. The Replacement. Your reflection belongs to the grounds now. It watches from the fountains, the mirrors, the eyes of the dead. You may leave at sunrise, but you must find a replacement. Print the sign, buy the suit. The chain demands another link, or it will claim you whole. The first blush of dawn crept over the horizon, gray light bleeding into the sky, chasing the stars like frightened ghosts. The blue glow in the furnaces faded to embers. Henry's grave lay quiet, a blackened scar. The gargoyles squatted motionless, their stares averted. The bells hung silent, brass mouths agape in feigned innocence. I unlocked the gate with numb fingers, the bolt reversing its earlier thud into a hollow sigh. I left the keys on the booth counter, beside the logbook, now closed, its pages innocent once more. Home was a blur, The walk across the waking city, the stairs to my dim apartment creaking underfoot. I collapsed into the bathroom, twisting the faucet until water gushed cold and clean. Dirt caked my face, the suit's fabric stiff with sweat and soil. I leaned over the sink, splashing my skin, then lifted my gaze to the mirror. There was no one there. The glass showed only the peeling wallpaper behind me, the flicker of the bare bulb overhead. I raised a hand, palm pressing against the cool surface. The mirror remained empty, a void where my face should have been. A faint smile tugged at my lips, unbidden, toothless, hollow. From the faucet's drip, I know what I have to do. The help wanted sign needs reprinting, the ink fresh and bold. I've ordered a new suit, black as the void, tailored for the next desperate soul. The keys wait in the booth, the envelope fat with cash, $2,000 up front, one night only. Does anyone need a job? The dead are hiring, and they never let go.